Welcome to The Whole Pineapple. I'm Ruby Boris.
And I'm Ann Judge. The Whole Pineapple is a podcast about wellness focused around fertility. And on these weekly mini episodes, we bring you bite-sized ideas for you to snack on.
Like breathing exercises, book reviews. Maybe we'll review some scientific research, or we'll share some wellness and fertility stories from our listeners.
So if you're looking for a tip or a trick related to your fertility and well-being, then you've come to the right place.
Let's dig in.
Welcome to the Whole Pineapple Snack Edition. We are thrilled to welcome back our own wonderful Jamie Mamiga for another Mindful Moments with Jamie episode. I know we're not talking to her quite as often with our schedule, but we are so happy anytime she's willing to come by and share with us. So Jamie, welcome back to the podcast.
I always love being here. Thanks for having me again. It's great.
Yeah. And we thought today would be a good episode to talk a little bit about starting over. And that's something that comes up so much in people that are undergoing fertility care is often it's something you didn't expect to have to do in the first place, but especially when you have to make treatment decisions or sometimes life intervenes, you're moving, you have to move to a different clinic and start over. How do you kind of mentally gear up when you have to reset in something that you didn't often expect to have to do in the first place anyway?
Yeah, it's a great and perfect timing because it's actually something that I've been navigating myself recently. And so it's this is aptly timed.
Yes, you were kind of our inspiration for this episode. So maybe talk a little bit about what is exciting news for our listeners that might want to be able to talk with you a little bit more for some one-on-one Jamie time instead of just our mindful moments.
Yeah, I'm excited to announce that I am starting a private practice. And I'll be working in both Montana and Washington. I have licensures in both states. So my business is called Sound Perinatal and Fertility Counseling. And I'm really excited. I'm going to be sort of expanding. Previously, my focus was, strictly fertility, but I will be sort of expanding beyond that and including sort of just overall trying to get pregnant, being pregnant, high-risk pregnancies, fertility issues, of course, and, hoping to have some follow-through care for, postpartum as well. And, working with individuals and couples, and I'll also be doing some sexual health as well.
And I think that's great because that was often one of the challenges when patients just within our practice with sync counseling is we really are just focusing on people in that active fertility piece, and all these emotions don't go away in pregnancy. In fact, many of them, it gets harder when you're getting farther along in pregnancy, or especially as you mentioned, postpartum, you have all these hormone swings and everything else that happens then. So I think that's great that you'll be able to be a more consistent resource for patients. And I know going back to some of our early episodes, you've always had this interest in the sexual health side. So it's exciting. And I think sometimes that comes up with people doing fertility treatment too. You can be excited about something while still grieving the fact that you're having to make changes or feeling resentment about the fact that you're having to restructure your life in a way that you might not have anticipated. So how do you balance that mix of emotions?
Right. That's always the question, I think.
Fix it, Jamie. Fix everything for all of us. So,
well, I think first it's important to recognize, there's two ways that people have a tendency to cope with sort of unanticipated change or starting over. One is through sort of avoidance, and the other is through control. And oftentimes people sort of vacillate a little bit between those two, but they tend to land in one camp more than the other, more often than not. There's pros and cons to both. I would say that the control piece, I am more in the avoidance camp myself.
I was about to say I'm a control,
control
I think control is
more
better.
adaptive.
So you're telling why avoidance is better.
Then moving yourself forward, kind of burying your head in the sand is probably elongates, some of the journey at times. It's just a natural response as well. And there's no good and bad, right? I think that both are really natural. And again, most people sort of vacillate between both of those things. And also, I think it's important to recognize that unanticipated change or starting over, the experience is very, very, very similar to like a grief experience. And there tend to be stages that people go through, and they are not linear as much as we would like them to be. I think in grief and in kind of starting over, we want to just kind of go like, okay, I'm done with the anger stage. I'm done with the grieving or whatever it is. And now I'm ready to just move forward and, with acceptance. But, oftentimes there's, sort of, you kind of go back and forth between all of those things.
Did you ever watch the TV show The Good Place?
Oh, I love that. I've watched it so many times.
I know, but remember in The Good Place how they show like what the timeline is and how it's not like a linear circle or a straight line, but it looks like someone writing Jeremy Bearimy in script. And that's what I think. It's like the process is like this random scribble all over up and down. And like, yeah, you don't know what you're going to feel like on a given day. Are you going to feel like ready and empowered? Like, okay, I'm making these changes. Here are steps A, B, C. Or are you going to just be like, I want to go home and put the covers on my head and not deal with it? So yeah, you just go up and down that Jeremy Bearimy line. And this probably makes no sense if you haven't watched the show, but if you haven't, it's a great show, and it has a lot to say about philosophy and acceptance and grief. So I would give it an A+ for someone on a fertility journey if you want some kind of escapism to laugh, but also make you think a little. But I digress.
Love it. I think I found myself in the little dot of the eye times in my recent journey. Again, not going to make sense unless you've watched that. But at any rate, it's hard. I mean, you're just kind of going back and forth. And some of the stages I just want to mention are kind of like that shock and potential disorientation, and then maybe anger and other emotional responses that could come up. And then usually there's kind of coming to terms with whatever that new normal is and starting to kind of reach some acceptance and then moving forward, right? And I know that I've been in stages where I've been like solidly moving forward, and then all of a sudden something will go awry in whatever my plan was, and I'm just like back.
Yeah, back in the anger, feel all the feels. So
yeah. Frustrated. And I think one thing that's really important to keep in mind is that what you're feeling, there is no emotion. We've talked about this before, but there's no emotion that has stayed around forever. Mm-hmm. Right? There's no experience that's stayed around forever. Emotions shift and change. And what you're feeling today is not necessarily what you're going to be feeling a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, right? When you can zoom out a little bit and, try to find some objectivity, that can be really helpful in anchoring yourself in the process. And so, some ways of doing that is, kind of revisiting what your resiliency skills are, what your strengths are. I love to make, lists of these things, right? Like, okay, what are my special skills and strengths that I could sort of like put towards this, which can be hard when you're in a really emotional state. But maybe you can even have, someone, a loved one of some kind, help you remember what those are, because you can start moving those towards or using those, in that new direction, propelling you in that new direction or helping you through it. And, trying to take a real step-by-step look at things, right? Gather facts, write things down, whatever you need to do to try to be as objective as possible and, kind of see the forest through the trees, right?
I think that's a really good callback to when we did our catastrophizing episode, because that's often one of my challenges. Like if you have to start over, sometimes your mind instantly spins out to like the worst case scenarios of what could happen if I'm having to redo things. But you're right, trying to be very objective, and also sometimes looking at the past to be like, okay, well, what have been some other times that life threw me a curveball and I had to like reset myself, and what happened then and how do I feel now compared to how I felt back then. That can help give you that bigger picture view and sense of perspective. But it's hard because there's nothing that feels worse in that moment than people telling you time heals all wounds, or, those kind of things in the moment are not helpful. It doesn't mean they're not potentially true, but they don't feel good when people tell them to you.
No, they don't. But I think if you can, this is, again, I know we've talked about journaling. This is a place where, that can be really helpful in being able to, have a space to acknowledge your emotions. You need to acknowledge your thoughts and feelings that you're having about this change, but also then, be able to kind of counter that and be like, okay, but again, like you said, look back to the past. I've been through this before or something like it. I know, related to fertility, I had one of those moments where we started for our fertility treatment in a different state than where we ended up finishing our fertility treatment. And we were at a pretty critical point, and then my husband got a new job in a different state, and it was really devastating at the time. Like I was, getting ready to have a procedure that felt very time sensitive, and all of a sudden we had to move like yesterday.
Yeah.
And, for this new position, and there was no way to fit that in. And I didn't know how long I was going to have to wait to be able to do that, and how I was going to get established with a new clinic. And it was really challenging. But when I look back, I did establish with another clinic and get started. And yeah, there was a longer wait in there that's always hard in fertility journeys. But when I went there, they mentioned to me that had I had that particular procedure, it might have actually had a negative impact on some of my fertility chances, and that it was actually a really positive thing that I did not have that. And so, I kind of look back at that and other experiences that I've had in my life, and I go, sometimes there are positives that can come from situations that feel really negative in the moment.
Yeah, no, it's very true. It's just so hard to to have the emotional space to be open to that when in the moment. I guess for me, it's sometimes hard when you're stuck in the anger phase. And like you say, it's not like it's a phase that you move past it. Like you can feel like you're moving, and then you're still mad you're having to do any of this. And I think that's something that I see in fertility patients all the time. Like they might be really hopeful and happy at the start of a cycle. It's been this long build up. Now we're going. And then sometime around day 8, 9 of injections, of course, you're also like hopped up on all the estrogen. You're so emotional. You see people that are just like, okay, but why am I doing any of this anyway? This is not what I thought I'd have to be doing. And so, yeah, how do you, in those really hard moments and days, try and like refocus? Maybe that's what you're going to guide us through. But like, how do you like let yourself feel some of that emotion when you maybe feel like you're cycling backwards, while still knowing that you're going to still keep on the path one way or the other?
Well, I think kind of creating some space for it. I mean, we need to have, and we've talked about this before, but we need to have some time where it's okay to have these thoughts and feelings. And I think even just kind of actively making some space for that, but at times that feel appropriate for you, that are going to work for you, like maybe not in the middle of your work day, but kind of creating some time. And, the more we fight against those emotions and try to pretend that they're not there, the more intense they tend to be. And so just acknowledging them for what they are, and acknowledging that it makes sense that they're there and it's okay that you're feeling that way. I think giving yourself some grace that of course you would feel this way. Who wouldn't feel this way in this situation that you're in, right? And I think just kind of giving that yourself that acceptance, right, piece of like, it's okay to feel the way I'm feeling, and I don't want to be stuck in it. And staying in the anger and the feeling of unfairness and resentment isn't going to ultimately be helpful for me in what I'm trying to do here, right? It's not going to help me reach my goal, really. And so, also finding space where you can take care of yourself in positive ways that can help you, step out of that anger, or, just finding ways to remind yourself that there's a reason you're doing this. And yeah, it's maybe not fair and you don't want to be here, but you are choosing to be here.
It reminds me a little bit of how you talk about when people have been in difficult situations, say with someone, and like how when you're forgiving someone who's wronged you, like try not to think about it just that you're forgiving them for them, but like you're forgiving them for you, right? Because like all that emotion may not be serving you. I feel like sometimes you have to do that to the situation of infertility. You have to just kind of like forgive the fact that you're here and you're there. And it's like that sometimes things have happened, and you are in the place that you are, and to be stuck in that place of the anger and the resentment, as you say, it's just, if it's not serving you in that moment, sometimes you do have to find a way to let it go. But sometimes before you let it go, you have to really feel it. And so when you are just like shoving it down, or trying to deny that you are angry, or deny that you feel resentment, like that's part of the reason it does keep bubbling up. And so giving yourself that grace, finding that moment to be in that place, and realizing that sometimes you are letting it go to be able to help yourself be in a better place. And it doesn't mean it's fair, that it's right. It just means that to be able to move forward, you have to just kind of put it out there and watch it drift away.
Yeah. No, I think you're right on. And I think that this is true with so many other things, but really life, we are just faced with what we're faced with, and everybody is going to have, even when other people's lives seem perfect, you don't have a window into it, a very clear one at least. And so it doesn't, they have their own trials and tribulations that they're going to go through, because I don't think anybody gets through this life unscathed by something. Right. Everybody has stuff that they're going to encounter and go through that's really challenging and difficult. It's just going to be different for everybody. And really, the only thing that we have any control over is how we choose to react. Right. That's where our control lives. And I think when I think of that anger, it is that lack of control that kind of comes up for people. I know that's what it was for me. I was just like, this is so out of my control. And that makes me, kind of grieve and feel, so frustrated and so angry at times. But I can only keep my side of the street clean. I can't do anything about the other side of the street, right? I only can control how I react to whatever's coming toward me.
Very true. It's hard, but it's true. So we've covered the Jeremy Bearimy of emotions when you're having to start over. And it sucks sometimes. And just acknowledging that too. Like, no one is saying put on a happy face and, just start again. But you're right. Like, can you imagine what the world would be like if we had like this window into what other people were actually going through and feeling all the time? It would be a very raw and kind of scary place if you realized what was in the back of many people's minds here. Everybody does have something hard that they're going through in a certain moment. And we as a society have to find some way to hold it together and still get through the day.
Yeah, and I think that's what we do. We try to a lot of people try to control sort of what they put out there in the world and what other people see, and that's a way of sort of coping as well. But I think it's really important to acknowledge what's real, what's true for you, what you're experiencing, and to, again, give it some grace. Like, it's okay, and it makes sense that these feelings are here. I think that part's really, really important. So,
and sometimes you need a little break. Going back to our take a break episode, when we're talking about starting over, we're not saying you've got to instantly start over every moment. Sometimes part of feeling something and kind of developing that resiliency is that you need to take a little bit of time off before you resume whatever it is that's been a new challenge for you.
And that's something that I've actually done in my recent changes is I took a break and then, and it helps so much to have this sort of renewed energy and focus. And now I can kind of like dream about these different things that I'm adding to my practice and things that I wasn't able to offer before. And that's so exciting. And so now, this thing that's been really, hard and challenging because it was unexpected is all of a sudden really exciting. And I have this whole nother view of my future that I have to look forward to and what, ways I'm able to support people that I work with and in a more holistic, whole person way, which is really exciting to me. So you never know I think that space is really important. I love that you added that.
All right. And we love that you're still going to be there as a resource for people. So we will make sure to put information in show notes for patients that are in, tell me again, Washington and Montana. Washington and Montana. And we're so happy to still have you being a part of the podcast. And I'm excited to hear what you have for us today. Thanks again, Jamie.
Thanks, Anne. As I was preparing for this mindfulness practice, I was reminded of something I read a while back that spoke about the fact that even when you're experiencing a positive change, it still means that there is an end to something before. This experience of transition can produce a variety of complicated and interwoven thoughts and emotions that can leave us feeling unsteady, unsure, vulnerable. I know that this is certainly true for me. So today, I invite you to find a comfortable position with me, either seated or laying down, grounding yourself in whatever position you choose by simply noticing the support underneath you. And begin noticing any feelings of tension or tightness you may feel in your body. I invite you to slowly begin to relax the muscles in your face, softening your forehead, your jaw. I invite you to roll your shoulders to help relieve any tension you may feel in your shoulders or neck. Gently release your belly, your hands. And I invite you to bring a gentle smile to your lips to help your body know that you are completely safe in this moment. Now, bring your attention to your breath and where you feel it in your body. You notice it in the gentle rise and fall of your chest, maybe in the movement of your belly, or perhaps you notice the air moving in and out of your nostrils the most. Simply focus your attention on your breath, not trying to change it in any way. Just noticing the peaceful rhythm in and out. Stay here for a moment, just breathing in and out and allowing your body to relax even further. Continuing to focus on breathing in and out. Continuing to focus on breathing in and out and on relaxing your body. I invite you to begin to shift your attention to a life change you have recently experienced. It's possible that you've experienced more than one, but I would like you to focus on the change that has been taking up the most space in your mind and heart. And as you allow the thought of this change to enter your mental space and your mindfulness practice, I encourage you to pay attention to any feelings and sensations you may experience. Maybe you feel sadness or a sense of loss. Perhaps you notice feeling stuck, disoriented, lost in some way. Or maybe you even feel a sense of openness, freedom, excitement, or possibility. Or maybe you feel a mixture of emotions. In this moment, you may be pulled to try to change or shift what you're feeling. You may notice your brain racing ahead in time, trying to anticipate or control elements of the future. But I invite you to simply allow these feelings to be present for a moment, without trying to change them or control them or avoid them. Simply allowing them some space to be. And see if you can begin to open up to what you are experiencing. Just breathing in and out, noticing the feelings as they come, inviting them in and allowing them to stay a moment, whether they're pleasant or unpleasant, scary or exciting, whatever they are, just allowing them to be. As you engage in this mindfulness practice, it's likely that you may get lost in thought. You may lose focus or get distracted, and that is completely normal and expected. It can be challenging to sit with emotions. Just allow yourself to notice when you get lost or unfocused without judgment, and bring yourself back to your practice by asking yourself, when I think of this change, what do I feel? And where in my body do I feel it? And as the feelings and sensations ebb and flow, shift and change, know that you can always return to your breath in this moment. Just breathing in and out, like gentle waves in the ocean. And I invite you to remind yourself that you have never experienced a feeling or a sensation, whether comfortable or uncomfortable, that has lasted forever. This too will shift and change. All you need to do is focus on just this feeling, this breath, in this moment, and allow it to be. And when you're ready, I invite you to bring your hand to your heart. Let it rest gently, feeling the beat and rhythm of your heart, feeling the warmth of your body, feeling your breath continuing to move in and out. And I invite you to hold whatever feeling or feelings you're experiencing with this change with care and patience. Just trying to be present with yourself and whatever your experience is, with compassion and love that you might more readily give to a loved one who is going through a similar change or transition. And know that as you move through this change, your feelings are also changing, and that this too shall pass. And one day in the near or distant future, you will be able to look back at this moment with earned wisdom and understanding, just like you have for so many other experiences in your life. I wish you peace in this time of transition. From my heart to yours, namaste.